Welcome back, listeners, to a brand new episode of the New Standard. And I want to apologize for the schedule. We've been hopping around just a little bit, hopping on live. Hopefully, you guys have your notification bells indicated so you can get the indication that the show has started. Hopefully, we get some people on live. It has been a hectic week in the start of free agency for the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of news going on, but before we jump into it, I want to give a big shout out to my partner in crime, Neal Coolong. Big up to you. And I want to give a big shout out to everybody out there in Steeler Nation. If you want to hop onto the program and get involved and interact with me on the program as we go through it, you can go to the New Standard at Lance Williams. Go to the New Standard on YouTube, and you can find me there. Also, if you want to hit me via podcast, look for the podcast, The New Standard. A lot has been going on this week. And the one thing I can just say, man, is this is not your mom and dad's Pittsburgh Steelers. The title of this particular program is Pick Rocks. And that is a play on the frame Kick Rocks, because that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers did in jettisoning Kenny Pickett, former first-round draft pick, and big up to my homegirl Sultana from Cal. Big up to the Reds. Sultana Adams, big up to her Delta chapter. Big up Sultana. Your frat is on here. Big Melvin as well. So big up to you, Cal Berkeley. Let's go. And a lot of stuff's been going on, man. It's hard to really collect my thoughts, because at the beginning of the week, I didn't think that by the end of the week, the Steelers would just have one quarterback, and that one quarterback would be Russell Wilson. You know, I was kind of in the Kenny corner of give Kenny another opportunity. I don't think he's been given the best chance because of the offensive coordinator and different things and different situations, what he's been asked to do. I don't think he had been coached well. I don't think all of the issues that he was going through in his first two seasons as a Steeler quarterback all fell on him. So I thought he was going to get some grace. And according to what Brother Jay is talking about, the Steelers did talk to Pickett before the Wilson signing. Let me just say this. In life, being a black man in his 50s, I'm just going to say it like this. You ain't old shit. Let me just say it like that. The only thing that the Pittsburgh Steelers owed Kenny Pickett was his check. Outside of that, you ain't old shit. They can tell you whatever they want. Sure, they should keep it G with you, but they don't have to. And everything that's been said about Mike Tomlin is that Mike Tomlin's a guy that keeps it G. He keeps it 100, and he gonna let you know what's up. And the other thing I get the sense from Mike Tomlin, and the different things you hear from Mike Tomlin, is he likes cats that compete. And he wants you to be all about football, all in. He doesn't want you to be a punk about it. And assalamu alaikum, my brother Ali Howard Species 5618. Happy Ramadan for you. And I just think that, and it's been reported that the thing that really was the spark to send Kenny Pickett away was the fact that Kenny Pickett wasn't going to compete. And now I heard different things going around social media. Big up to Jeremiah Yoder, Ramadan Mubarak. What's up? Happy Ramadan Mubarak. Yes. Thank you, Sultana, for that. and to everybody who listens to the program who is a Muslim who observes Ramadan. Big up to everyone out there. And Mike Tomlin strikes me as an OJ, right? Where he would give more props to you if you just shut the F up, packed up your lunch pail, worked on your game, and got better. Now, let's play out the scenario that I've heard on social media, right? Where originally, when Russ got signed, it was supposed to be an open competition. Then later on in the week, it shifted to where Russ was going to be QB1 and Kenny was going to have to compete. Let me just step back and look at this from the perspective of the three P's: performance, pay, and pedigree. Now, Russell Wilson trumps Kenny Pickett in all three. In all three, he trumps Kenny Pickett. His performance last year was better, and we're just looking at raw numbers here. We're not breaking down film, schematics, what he might have missed, what it means, because sometimes when you look at raw numbers, it's hard to assess genuinely what they mean. For instance, to an example, Russell Wilson threw 20 some odd touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. Been watching some Russ. One of those touchdowns was a Hail Mary pass. I mean, really, what does that mean? But so from a production standpoint, though, it's clear Russell Wilson was the better player last year. 20 some odd touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. He had as many interceptions, 6, as Kenny Pickett did touchdown passes, 6-4. No comparison there. Pedigree, his first round pedigree does not trump the fact that Russell Wilson is a former Super Bowl winning quarterback. Went to 2 Super Bowls, 9-time Pro Bowler. And the pay, I mean, anytime you can get a guy with Russell Wilson's resume at league minimum, there it is. And if Kenny Pickett truly indeed waffled at the fact that he was told that he was QB1, now he's going to be QB2, and he was going to have to compete, or it wasn't, regardless of what he was told, the reaction of Kenny Pickett to get in his feels, man, that shit was not going to play with Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin does not strike me as a cat who appreciates the softer side and the sentimentality and that type of bullshit. He's like, look, dog, if you feel a certain way about it, compete. If you feel a certain way about it, convince me that Russ ain't the dude. Come in here and fight for your spot, fight for your place. And the way it's being portrayed in social media is that when Kenny waffled at that, that wasn't the competitive response that Mike Tomlin wanted. And as a fan, and as you guys listening as fans, that shouldn't be the competitive response that you want your QB1 to come back with. So it's unfortunate at the end of the week that Russell Wilson is also QB 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, like Karras once said. But I mean, damn, homeboy didn't even want to fight for it. He didn't want to fight for his woman. He didn't want to fight for his relationship. He was just willing to let it go. And here's the cold thing about it. Mike T is cold. Mike T is cold. He traded Kitty on his birthday. That's one reason why he's cold. The second reason he's cold is he like, look, dog, hey, man, we gonna move on. I know you want to be a starter, but guess what, my dude? We're gonna send you to the Eagles. And guess what? You ain't gonna have no chance to start. None whatsoever. Because the Q dog up in Philly is not letting Kenny Pickett come in there and take his spot. There's no way Kenny Pickett will be the starter in Philadelphia. And I'm wondering if the league is going to hold this reaction against him. I just think, man, it was the wrong thing. Even if the Steelers wanted to waffle on their decision about Russ being the starter, I, why would they if you weren't really willing to fight for it? He just gave it up. He just gave his girl up. Soon as somebody kicked some game to his girl, he just gave her up. He was like, nah, man, I'm just gonna move on. She don't like me like she said. I'm out. Fight for it. And I think that's all Mike Tomlin wanted Kenny Pickett to do was to fight for it. Fight for the starting spot. Now, of course, I'm speculating. I don't know what truly was said between all parties, if there was a waffling on who was going to be the starting quarterback. But I know for certain with Mike Tomlin, man, you got to love ball and you got to be competitive as shit. You got to love ball and you got to be super competitive. Like, you got to fight for it. You got to be all in. You got to love ball. He's a man's man that loves men's men, and he wants his Pittsburgh Steelers to fight for it. He wants them to be all in. And when Kenny was like, trade me, he was like, word? You want me to trade you? You mean you just going to give me your girl? I don't even really want her that much, but I'm going to take her. Holla. I mean, come on, man. Come on, man. It's just not the reaction that you want from your QB1 that you drafted in the first round. So the Kenny Pickett era ends unceremoniously with him in a video eating pizza, being disturbed by Pittsburgh media. Now he can go get Philly cheesesteaks. He's from that area, and now he can never play. The unfortunate thing for him is that I think to a certain point, he might be stuck in Never Never Land. And Never Never Land is the land of I ain't never going to be a starter. Him, Mac Jones, almost that entire QB class is done. Dead to rights. Sam Howell. I mean, the best guy in that quarterback class is Brock Purdy. I mean, so needless to say, if you had a password that had Kenny Pickett in it, you need to change it. Also, wanted to give you a quick shout out. And by the way, you're listening to the New Standard. The title of this week's program is Pick Rocks, as in kick rocks, but Pick Rocks. Is Kenny Wood is now being changed to the name Russell Wood. Also, I wanted to let you know is that Permane Brothers is giving a promo. If you had a Kenny Pickett deal, you can give your Kenny Pickett, I think, jersey back to Permane's and get $30 and a fattening carb-loaded sandwich. But that's not all the news this week. Again, you're checking out the New Standard. Pick Rocks. Hit me with a like and subscribe. Again, that's not all the news. There's some other news that are happening this week, along with Kenny Pickett being traded, is Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen signed a free agent deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the richest deals ever for the Pittsburgh Steelers to be the inside linebacker to join the tandem of Elandon Roberts and Cole Holcomb. And I love the fact that they brought Queen in, because I think it weakens the Ravens. And as a young player that's athletically ridiculous, I think, and they've been trying to replace Ryan Shazier for years. And hopefully Queen is the Shazier replacement. But I've been thinking about it a lot. In terms of free agency and how I want to frame free agency and how I want to frame moves in free agency. And I just want to give them the thumbs up or the thumbs down. And that's largely based on, do they address a positional need? And I think it's clear that when you bring Pat Queen in, it absolutely solves, I don't know if it solves it, but it meets a positional need. I don't want to use solve, because we've got to see how Pat Queen plays in the Steeler defense, how he's going to be deployed. So I don't know if it works, We don't know the football part of it, the aspect for it, but um, I like that he's coming in because he fits a need. And and to Jeremiah, no, I did not play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 5'8" and semi-athletic does not qualify, and I might have CTE anyway, but if I do have it, I didn't get it from playing football. But I will say to Jeremiah Yoder, I did live very close to the stadium. I am from the 15233. I am from Pittsburgh. I am from Manchester, and I did grow up in and around Three River Stadium, now Heinz Field, maybe about 5-10 minutes away. It was walking distance from the house, and I could hear the games on the PA when the Steelers were playing. But no, I did not play. Have friends that I went to school with that Sultana knows as well that played professional football. But I like the Pat. I like the Pat Queen move. You get an athletic guy, and so when you look at the Steelers up the middle, you have Cam Hayward, you have Pat Queen, and you have Minka Fitzpatrick. That is a nice up the middle or a battery at all three levels of your defense: line of scrimmage, uh, the linebacker level, and the secondary level, all three levels of your defense, line of scrimmage, intermediary, and the secondary levels of your defense. You have very good players there. And so that leads me to think that the Steelers will have taken inside linebacker off the board high. And Ariel brought up a good point. Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons is another versatile player that they could bring in, they could look at, but I'm not sure if they'll still be in the works for that. It'll be interesting to see how Holcomb plays out. Also, there was the trade of Deontay Johnson this week in return. I'm not going to go into all the compensation they returned. They got Dante Jackson, a cornerback, and Deontay Johnson is going to the Carolina Panthers. Let me say this about Deontay Johnson. DJ got ripped a lot. And I think fans got frustrated with DJ, particularly his lack of effort in the Cincinnati Bengals game, famously not trying to get on the fumble. What I will say, though, is Deontay Johnson, although he didn't score a ton of touchdowns, definitely was the best route runner on the Steelers. Definitely not the most explosive receiver. Pickens is that, but as a technician, setting up corners, getting in and out of his breaks, he's outstanding. And to Brother Jay's question, who replaces number 18? There's nobody that replaces number 18. And I think that introduces wide receiver in the first round. They have gone out, and I'm gonna bring up the notes here shortly. They did go out and get a wide receiver from the Rams, but by no means is that guy going to be a guy that's going to replace Deontay Johnson. And the big thing about replacing a Deontay Johnson, it's not just the production. A lot of it is the targets. So if you look at a Deontay Johnson, well over 100 targets, who gets those targets? Not only the production, but who gets the targets? Is there another player on the roster that's going to warrant that many targets? And so when you look at the roster right now, the Steelers, of course, have Calvin Austin III, Marquez Callaway, Dez Fitzpatrick. I can't pronounce the brother's first name, so I'll just say K. Harris, Denzel Mims, George Pickens, and Deuce Watts. Let's just say hide the women and children, because if you want to let Russ cook, them are some bad ingredients. Like that sound like spoiled milk, bad cheese, and a bunch of other stuff. That does not sound like foie gras and caviar. And I don't want to just diminish professionals to food, but them brothers that I was just naming, nah, man. Nah, brother. Those aren't the ingredients you expect to get when you go to a restaurant and you're trying to get fine dining. Nah, man. Them brothers ain't fine dining. But it's going to be interesting to see what the Steelers do to improve that room, because when you hear those names, that's not going to get it done. And and one of the big questions, in my opinion, when it comes to Russell Wilson is, can Arthur Smith scheme up the offense in a way where Russell Wilson will play with rhythm and timing and make anticipation throws and sit in the pocket? And the other wide receiver they brought in was Van Jefferson, 6'1", 200 pounds from the Rams. And Van Jefferson by no means is a guy that gets me excited. At 27 last year, I'm assuming that he is not the guy intended to be the replacement for DJ. Only got 43 targets last year. Ariel 75 also said outdated Spice. He said drag Luke McCaffrey. I mean, hey, he's got the pedigree. Another deal from the week, Steelers went out and acquired Deshaun Elliott from the Miami Dolphins, adding him to a room with Minka and KZ. Elliott replaces Neal. I don't know much about him as a player, but again, from the perspective of, does the move fill a need? Does it check that box? Yes. Thumbs up. It checks the box. They needed another safety to come in there and play. And last but not least, Dante Jackson, the cornerback from the Carolina Panthers. Not familiar with him as well, but they did need a corner opposite Joey Porter Jr. now that Levi Wallace is no longer on the roster and that uh, Patrick Peterson got waived and got cut. So you had to start filling that up. I mean, in the first round, if you look at this team, if they went corner, defensive lineman, wide receiver, or center, those positions make sense to me, particularly center when you have a short quarterback like Russell Wilson, very susceptible to interior pressure, wants to get out the pocket, particularly to his right anyway. So I think you have to have the integrity of the interior pocket really secure to make Russell feel as comfortable as possible. But man, before we get out of here, and Jeremiah, I'm laughing at Jeremiah's comments. Mr. Williams, forgive me. I say that you remind me of former Steelers center Dermontti Dawson. I thought you maybe were a former Steeler O lineman. That's why I am on a meal reduction plan. I'm doing heel because my face must be so fat that I look like a lineman, but it shouldn't. And so over the course of the rest of the year, I'm going to look like a fullback. I'm trying to transform from a lineman to a linebacker to a fullback. I'm not sure I'm going to ever be a scat back anymore, but I'm trying to get to a fullback. I'm trying to be sexy thick. That's my goal as a 50-year-old guy. I'm just trying to shift back into, anyway, anyway. No, Jeremiah, I was not in the group with Alan Faneca, Ramon Foster, and Willie Colon. I mean, I could have been Willie Swollen, Swolone. I mean, maybe that's what I would have been, Willie Swolone. But before we conclude, man, it's disappointing that the Kenny Pickett experiment did not work out. Kick rocks, brother. Pick rocks. In fact, if you don't want to compete, that's not the guy that you want to be your QB1. You want your QB1 to face adversity, whether they lie to you or not, which isn't cool. I'm not saying that's cool, but I think Tomlin would rather have a guy that has a chip on his shoulder. It's like, screw that, screw Tomlin, man. I'm gonna ball out. I'm gonna win this job. Holla, screw that fool. I think that's what Tomlin wanted the reaction to be. And Kenny was probably, it seems as if Kenny was like, trade me. So it's like, look, Tom, hey, I'm going to trade you to a spot where you ain't going to play. And you better like it. So Sad to see that Kenny's gone. I was hoping that it was going to work out. Thought he didn't get the greatest chance before that, but man, again, you can't be a competitive coward. Not saying he's a coward. I'm just saying he's a competitive coward. If the stories are true, and I think the best case scenario for the Steelers moving forward at the quarterback position is for Russell Wilson to work out. I'm not certain it will. We'll see. Been watching a lot of Russ this last week, and I'm honestly concerned. But they know more than me. I'm going to trust they know what they're seeing. And I think Russell again checks the box of a veteran signal caller that gives Mike Tomlin some comfort. It is hard to develop a young quarterback, and he failed miserably when it came to Kenny Pickett. And so I think he's like, I'm getting out of that business. I'm going to go get a veteran, period. Like, I'm going to make this easy on myself. I'm going to get him out of here. And I don't think Justin Fields is in the mix, but who knows? This is not your father and brother and sisters and mothers Pittsburgh Steelers. It is it is not that. And Jeremy, hey man, it's all right, brother. JY in the place to be. We not thin-skinned on this show. We gonna compete. I'm gonna compete with the LBs, baby. I'm gonna compete with the LBs, baby. Uh, and so I don't think Justin Fields is in play here. Because that's another developmental guy. And I think clearly Mike ain't in the developmental quarterback business. Mike's in the I had Big Ben for a long time. That felt really good. I want a vet again. And so I don't think he's going that route with Justin Fields. And the saga of Justin Fields and what's going to happen to him is absolutely weird too. I just don't know what's going on there. National Football League is definitely not for long, not for the loquacious, whatever NFL, whatever it is. Man, it's just it's a wild spot. And before we get out of here, let me jump into this last comment from Mac Del Do. I like how Khan is sending a message. Sure, I'll trade you DJ to a bad team, KP to a backup role. Yeah, I mean, to his point, hey man, to Doe's point, and a great nickname for Mac would be Doughboy. Yes, that's going to stick. Doughboy is that. Hey man, we have an obligation to the football team. We don't have an obligation to you and to put you in the best place for you to be successful. So, as once you're out of our building, it's not like we don't care for you. You are an ex-Steeler. You are part of a fraternity forever. But for right now, we trying to get the best compensation for us to win a Super Bowl. But with that, we're going to conclude the program. This was fun. I think Neal's going to hop on at some point this weekend and give his perspective on the Russell Wilson trade. But man, this is not your typical normal Pittsburgh Steelers. And with that, we're going to conclude the program. Big up to Kappa Chapter, Deltas, the Reds, to Sultana, to all my Cal Berkeley people out there. And also, hey man, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe. Hit that like button. Holla.